A definitive number one in the Big Ten, number one in the college football playoff. Welcome to the Voice of College Football following the Big Ten Championship in Indianapolis, concluding about the way we all anticipated. Michigan 26, Iowa. They could probably play 5 games and it would be Iowa. That Iowa defense is something else, aren't they? Let's talk Hawkeyes first. They are who they are. And they were tonight exactly what they are. They are a tremendous defense. That front seven, especially the defensive line, as we talked about all week here, I said it a zillion times, that Iowa defensive front is going to give Michigan fits. And it did to the running game. It did to J.J. McCarthy. They were phenomenal on defense. The linebackers, Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, phenomenal. The secondary, the Iowa defense. The Iowa special teams. The offense is just as bad. No, the offense is even worse than the Iowa defense and special teams are good. Now let's get to Michigan. This is the important part of the equation, of course. They are three-peat Big Ten champions, 2021, 22, 23. So they're following up with their three-peat over Ohio State. Buckeyes winning 4 consecutive Big Ten championships in 2017, 18, 19, and 20. So Michigan has something to shoot for next season. But let's get to the here and now. Michigan, they are a super version of Iowa with a quarterback who's an excellent quarterback. Although he didn't play that well, he did the job. He had a big missed overthrow in the first series that may have led to a touchdown instead of a field goal. JJ 22 of 30 for 147. They had a 4th and 2 that pushed them back to a 4th and 7 when Trenton Jones had the false start. Cornelius Johnson had a nice game. When they got into a passing rhythm and hit some of those outside shots, that's when their receivers, especially Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, those are the guys, would get to the outside and make some really nice plays and make some new moves on those Iowa cornerbacks and start to take advantage of them to a certain extent. I don't think there's a weakness on the Iowa defense, but if there is, without Cooper DeJean, it's at cornerback. So they marched down the field on a 4th and 1, inexplicably, after going for it and converting on a 4th down earlier, a longer one. They kicked the field goal at 3-0. Shamaje Morgan was the offense in the first half. He takes it to the house, almost takes it to the house, 87 yards on the punt return, flagged down by the punter, Torrey Taylor. So he's not just the best punter in the nation, he might be the fastest. No, he's really not that either. I don't know how Shamaje Morgan got hauled down. He's got to take some ribbing for that at some point. Blake Corum scores the touchdown, and Michigan goes up 10-0. Mason Graham deflected a ball on 3rd and 11 that Nico Ragiani possibly could have caught. It changed the trajectory of the ball, but still, this was another thing that comes up with these two teams playing, especially each other, but when they play other teams. But it's certainly increased when you watch them play against each other, these defenses. Deflected balls at the line of scrimmage, batted passes that take a lot of pressure off the secondary for both teams. Colton Loveland on the last drive of the first half, rare drop for him on a 3rd and 6 that could have converted to a big play. He was running the crossing route. He had beat his man. Ball delivered perfectly. He drops it. So Michigan only leads 10-0. It looked like they were on their way to at least a field goal to close out the half. Second half, Nick Jackson dropped a potential interception when JJ made a horrible underthrow on a crossing route. Nick Jackson right there, but dropped it. And those are the kind of plays that Iowa truly needed tonight. Michigan then gets the play of the game that broke the back of Iowa. Mike Sanders with the tremendous, this guy's a football player. In coverage, great ball skills. And by the way, no Will Johnson on the other side tonight, so that kind of evened out the Cooper DeJean absence for Iowa, but no Will Johnson. We don't know what his situation would be coming back for a playoff game, but they've got about a month for that, a little less. But Mike Sanders still on the outside playing cornerback. He has some of the best ball skills. Not surprisingly, former wide receiver. But strip sack, I know, is a controversial play. But for me, That's a fumble. To the eye test in regards to not taking the rule book into account, just as football fans that watch tons of football, watching the game, knowing what does a fumble look like? What does a forward pass look like? That's a fumble. Now to the letter of the law of the rule book, is it a fumble or a pass? Was the arm just coming forward by a half of an inch? Possibly. But to reverse that is a bit difficult. And of course, they gave the recovery because it was obvious, the recovery there by Josh Wallace. So to go from 10-0 to 17-0 in any game is a big deal. In this game, it's crucial. It's over. Iowa's not scoring 17 points against Michigan if they play 50 times. Blake Corum scores the touchdown, 16 carries, 52 yards. Pretty pedestrian effort out of Blake Corum. But again, the Iowa defense is just that good. He ties the A train. Michigan fans, by the way, if you have checked out one of the previous episodes where I mentioned the A train, Anthony Thomas, you may want to come here sometime. Maybe we'll do a video series on the A train, Anthony Thomas, and I can pontificate on his career. I can articulate the ins and outs, Chicago Bears, and everything that he did at Michigan. Yeah. Okay, Braden McGregor strip sack, and this was just the common theme on both sides, really, but Michigan obviously had enough with the special teams return and with the offense producing something to make this a rout because the Iowa offense had nothing. This was just more of the same. And credit the Iowa defense. When Braden McGregor gets the sack, the strip sack, sets up the Michigan offense at the Iowa 14, what happens? Sack at J.J. McCarthy. Michigan can't do anything with it. They kick another field goal. They kick a 50-yarder at the end of the game. 26-0. If you had Iowa in 22.5, I believe that was the closing line. You gave up 26 points. Iowa, for the 8th consecutive week, I believe that's the number, did not meet the over-under. Didn't even come close to it. 35.5. They lose 26-0. So the deal with Iowa is it's almost fitting. Brian Ferentz, their fired offensive coordinator, his final Big Ten game as offensive coordinator, he puts up a big goose egg. He could be a fine person. He's a fine football coach as probably an offensive line coach, tight ends coach. He's not an offensive coordinator, certainly not at this level. The offense is horrific. It's unimaginable how just awful this offense is. It's just incredibly atrocious. It can't be overstated. 61 yards in the first half with 2 first downs when it really counted. Now, they mounted all of 155 yards of total offense. They were last in the nation in yardage at like 240 per game, and in this game, 155. So that continues to plummet. 1.5 yards per carry. So they go to a bowl game. They're 10-3. They're a good football team when you put it all together, a top 15 to 20 team in the nation. But let's get back to Michigan. March on to the college football playoff. They should be the 1 seed. There could be a debate. Washington, you could also make a debate actually for Florida State, undefeated. Anyway, Washington is the one that will be talked about before the playoff is announced on noon Eastern time. We'll do the watch party right here. Join us. But Michigan should be the 1 seed. They did not struggle in games like Washington did over and 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 over. Washington would be the worst and would just flat out be the worst team to be a 1 seed ever. I don't even think they're one of the 4 best teams in the country, but they earned a spot in the college football playoff. Michigan goes forward. Again, we will analyze all of it with a watch party on Sunday. Please join us. Give me a call. Let's talk college football. And then later tonight on the call-in show, I will give you my Final 4 based on the results tonight, right here at the Voice of College Football.